Thanks so much for inviting me. And I've been told I've got 30 minutes to read, so I'll kick off immediately. I'm going to kick off. And by the way, can everyone hear me clearly? Okay, great. That's most important. I'm going to kick off with a poem called A Man Spends His Life Opening and Closing Doors. It was recently published in stanzas. And in fact, I read it, I think, for the first time recently at Cradock. So here we go. A man spends his life opening and closing doors, breathing his way from room to room, ferrying the dust and shadows from the previous room into the brightness offered by the next room. Yet he does not linger. Clocks blunt wonder, and like all men, he forgets to breathe, to reach out to life from his dreams and revel in the absurdity of his existence. Soft-footed, he enters a new room. Wind lifts the curtains, revealing an abyss of questions, and in his head, he hums a song that will never be sung by anyone but himself. Sometimes memory marries him to the scent of her, whispered by a breeze that becomes her hair. And beyond the window, a glinted ocean becomes a mirror of longing. The man smiles, aware there's always one love that turns to longing. A man spends his life moving through 1,000 rooms, doors opening and closing, until he runs out of rooms or breath or both. And before he can say his goodbyes, sparrows call him back to that garden at the beginning of time. This is called birth. And then a new poem, it's titled 2026. I think it was also published in stanzas. 2026. Take, for example, those small attachments, like the shadow of a sunning lizard stretched over concrete, tickling thought. Your fingers sheened by the butter of a last mouthful of toast as you lose yourself among the minutes of a blue-skinned Monday. Almost cloudless, irredeemable, every part of the moment teeming with filaments of light and song. To wander in the gutter of a workday and simply be. Shamelessly, perhaps that lone ant knows this, homeward bound over a desert of concrete, stuttering towards the artificial grass that was once a lawn. I always return to you as I pluck the leaves from a tree in my heart, imagining your face in rags of cloud that drag me elsewhere, far from common sense, aware that all we could have been or what could be is carried in a pocket of memory. So, what now? Turning these thoughts to words, hopeful that water will become wine, small attachments, the discarded skin cells of past seasons. A geography of consolations for this mystery we whisper to ourselves as poetry. And then I'm going to move on to my more recent collection. It is titled The Algebra of Insignificance. And I'm going to start with a poem. I'm going to try and read poems I haven't read publicly before. And this particular poem is titled This National Accident. And it's for a good friend of mine, Tyrone. It's a poem in 5 parts. Observe this brokenness, the fault lines of every cell particular to this landscape, the chips and cracks from one too many falls down the stairs of history. A darkness that cancels sunrises, devolves to ash and cultivates shadow where shadow should never fall. Possibility loiters in the middle distance, more mirage than reality, an illusion long past its sell-by date. For me, a childhood ago, joy was summer weekends of ice cream and chlorine fingertips. Then, those July afternoons when the fire hugged us as rain overflowed from gutters. Everyone would be there, my grandmother, father, mother, and brother. Later, the laughter of friends as 16mm westerns galloped over the dimpled plaster of the lounge wall. In the end, hope trotted into the sunset. Who knows where or when or where the potholes collapsed to an abyss? Some say men in black suits with glistening foreheads ate the map, the original sin of this national accident. Just brokenness. The bulb fizzled to death decades back, leaving gifts of blindness on every citizen's doorstep. Injury, too. So many fractures that there were not enough splints to go around, just as, thankfully, not enough bullets. We've become our brokenness, adrift on a tar sea, oil-slicked and always violent. A nation addicted to an impossible past as it ambles to an impossible future. Do not fly home, I say. Do not fly home. And then moving further afield, a lot of my work is around military histories from a very human point of view. And of course, we live in well, we never have lived outside of a period in which war hasn't touched us in some or other form. And this particular poem it's a fairly long poem, but I think it's important I read it, considering the Ukrainian conflict has kicked off again. Not that it ever reached a point of relative peace. It's titled Forgive Me, Babushka, for I have sinned. Forgive me, Babushka, for I have sinned. I should have refused my oversized fatigues, my webbing, and the ragged flag that argues with this foreign wind outside our tank. I answered the call, among many, like our short-sighted driver, Sergei, and Nikolai, the son of a baker, who now loads shells instead of bread. Forgive me, Babushka, for I do not know why we commit these sins or how this special operation benefits our nation, but know this for sure, that I've forsaken your womb for a steel tomb, heading on a final vector towards my end. We passed the bones of yet another village, and I thought I smelt the scent of your herb garden in Uncle Anatoly's allotment, near that children's park, the one with the broken swings and lopsided roundabout. But it was no more than an abandoned meal left in a kitchen turned inside out by one of our artillery brigade shells. And forgive me, Babushka, for the sins I'm about to commit, for the destruction I am certain we will rain down on the militia in their sneakers and hoodies, patiently waiting to unleash our great inventions on us, the Kalashnikov and Molotov cocktail, with great vengeance. Bless me, Babushka, for today the sun gleams like a divine coin tossed up into the ice blue sky. We are happy. Some are singing. Lieutenant Babanin promised us a warm meal this evening. There is even talk of pelemi for dinner and some drink to wash it down. Perhaps Sergei's phone will find a signal, and if so, I'll send you a letter by a telegram. Bless me, Babushka, for I'm alive. We took a hit. Sergei and Nikolai did not make it out in time. Lieutenant Babanin disappeared, like breath on a mirror. I was standing on the turret, about to take a piss, as the missile struck our machine. Bless you, Babushka. Bless you again and again, for it was your blessings that threw me clear of the blast and back into your arms. And moving much closer to home, much of South African poetry tends to visit the quotidian, the everyday, the suburban anthem. This is really a meditation on suburbia, but from a different angle. It's titled "The Fridge Hums Its Suburban Anthem." A cat's paw of worry ruffles a quail night. Half the city is drunk on the black liquor of February heat. The moon drips from a kitchen tap, splashing sparks of thought. Higher up, an army of trees has come to rest on the mountain, a mass of leaves breathing. The owl's talons feel the sleep tremors of the branches. What is this owl's purpose, other than to serve the mosquito and untidy what the mind has attempted to tidy during day? Does the sleeping grasshopper dream of the sweetness of uncut grass? From a bare window, I watch a lone moth joust streetlight. Invisible crickets praise the absence of humans as near silence, stillness, and worry curdle in a gird of heat under Orion. My children are growing into their lives, yet I cannot avoid imagining them many decades from now, brittle as fallen leaves. Night's clammy hands have built a cathedral of concern for me, yet every star confirms the algebra of my insignificance. Downstairs, the fridge hums its suburban anthem, barely audible, a reminder that my fears will eventually pour into the sun's routine, into an urn of daylight. My wife is dragged deeper still by the undertow of her dreams. And despite the heat, I turn to the warmth of her body, knowing we all become children in sleep. And here's a poem for a friend of mine, who I think has joined this evening, Glenn. And it's titled Older Now. Older now, I pass this wonder to a child, waiting for the ocean to swallow the architecture of her play. I stand on a beach blasted to sun-splintered granite, the day teetering between morning and afternoon. Every car coupled to the rush of white water and cackle of gulls. And drawn over the scene, scraps of mist, indecipherable whispers of tidal gossip over the sand flats. Yet beyond the surf, the clarity of salted breath on liquid glass, flecked with surfers, hunched in patience as they wait for waves. Older now, I watch the swells crest, feather, and offer their sliding joy. But this is of little use unless I was out there too. Today is simply for watching happy dogs and their humans, missed into insignificance and wondering at what point this calm will be bricked up by progress. I could sit here for hours reading the sky, blue page by white page, until I use up the present and the car park has emptied of voices. Or precisely and pointlessly waste the remaining hours counting the grains of sand on my feet as the day prepares to recall darkness. And we can't avoid conflict, and this particular poem is titled, It's Not a Large Country by Anyone's Standards. Today, I'm watching the tip of a spear trace a country's borders. It's not a large country by anyone's standards, but the spear's motion, like a stylus, gives sound to everyone's pain. It is this land's anthem, ownership of lament and ownership of sun-blazed sand. These are the lyrics, this is the soundtrack. What started as the song of a wise man is now the moan of a soldier crawling on all fours back to the safety of his lines. The cries of the children are muffled to the ears of the righteous. Their heads have been bandaged over and over with the rags of too many wars. The groove is worn and the spear is blunt. So the song is more scratch and hiss than kindness or truth. Tonight, both sides will watch the crisp sky and sharpness of its stars, wishing for peace on the trails of their rockets tracing across the heavens. And Then the book, the Algebra of Insignificance, was actually called quite a spiritual collection. So I thought, well, let me read a poem that's vaguely spiritual. I just have to find it. I've lost my mark. Um, Here we go. It's titled This God, and it's a prose poem. The book's a little different than her stanzas. This God forgot to take out the trash. For millennia, the bins reeked of fish, sharp tang of leftover fast food, and regret. The maggots feasted. This God is beyond the gloss of things, of beards, fairy tales, and religious wars. He cherishes his creation and mows down trophy hunters and politicians on Sundays. He traps violence for breakfast and sucks its bones clean by midday. On some days, he dreams of other worlds in vanished galaxies we have named Mesia, Triangulum, and Sombrero, and of his countless suns that have never resurrected to his side. On other days, he trawls the beaches of lost worlds in search of shells and pirate treasure. This is a god of untold myth, of music still swimming in the minds of composers, an architect of the dreams of unborn souls. Sometimes, when he tires of bending light in infinitely small amounts across the universe, he interviews the dead and reunites long-lost lovers with each other. As for the wicked, he blesses their skin with freckles of pain for eternity. But you protest, what of forgiveness? What of grace? Well, that depends on the wars of countless Earth-like planets, mostly beyond his control. This is perhaps why we worship war and have so much faith in mutual self-destruction. This God came before time and after time. He reclines in a threadbare armchair on the edge of an event horizon, just beyond its escape velocity. He observes his handiwork, like watching a lizard scurry across concrete in the midday heat. Sometimes this god intervenes, but he has run out of suns and tired of the holy books penned by his infinite disciples. He now delights in watching reruns of science fiction series simultaneously on millions of cathode ray televisions. I've heard he fancies Star Trek. This god has no need for cancer to kill his short-lived mammals or random acts of violence. He's the engineer of every itch and ache. We do the rest. His mantra is to live and let die, as that is the order of his cosmos. Mortality is the joker in his pack, and this god waits until we have shed our skin before he answers our prayers. He has gifted us with sleep as a foretaste of the eternal calm that awaits us. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, so when his wife trims his hair, the cut ends turn to stardust. I'm just going to let this cat out. Excuse me. Olive, you are not back. I'm back. Apologies. And now I'm going to read another poem, and this poem is actually dedicated to Glenn Thompson, and it's titled "An Act of Truancy." It's about surfing. Times like this, when the wind is more bark than bite, whisking thoughts like barbed wire, snagged shreds of plastic to some other province, me, half knowing this act of truancy is to purify, to cleanse the body, mind and earth of presence and time. A thought of you billows, agrees with the wind's direction and joins threads of sand swept out to forgetting. Now, close to 60, I realize why our earliest memories retain the vulnerability of their infancy, delicate as spun sugar. Me walking into this wind, gulls flirting with gravity, dusk sparking like lightning on the horizon. Beyond the dunes, holiday houses infuse darkness, weighted against change by mortgages and absent owners. With each step closer to the ocean's edge, I'm losing body parts. Here a limb, a strand of hair, and there, just behind me, a foot, evidence enough, marks the sand. As always, the final hours bear their bruises. Welts of cloud inflame the sky to citrus, aflame with spits of sunlight. I smile as the wind walks with me, nudging me to the taste of salt and a wave rider's joy. Everything can be solved by this. I'm going to read one or two more poems, and this particular poem is for you, Ed. It's titled Camps Bay, and it's from, I think, it's from my first collection, Questions for the Sea. Summiting the neck, there's that buckled horseshoe of coast below, still cooled by an absence of sun, driving past roofs and curtained windows, weeping the breath of sleep, switchbacking down towards the sea's voice. So close you can hear the drawing up of whispered lists, syllables brightening to brilliance. Then the school bell rings, and the children rush the gate. And I think the next particular poem is, if I can find it. Again, I'm losing all my places. And it's a little different. It's titled The Intricacy of a Body in the Dark. These are the days of the clouds and colors of his childhood, and the secrets of forgotten garages with reluctant doors and small paned windows, of the mysteries of broken glass, rust, and enigmas of dust, and of the sides of houses too, of shadows leopard crawling over mossed brick, cool green thoughts and concrete crumbling to nothingness at the edge of swimming pools, spun with holiday light. The intimacy of a body in the dark, how it reminds him of a life lived a lifetime away, when memory tasted of salted skin after a day at the beach, part sunlight, part ocean, and at the tip of its tongue, the bitterness of its end. He stands, flared against cobalt, looking out at the waves and last scraps of surfers, imagining someone else watching him. He has been turning a perfectly good key in a lock over and over his whole life, but the door remains locked. He imagines she stands behind the door, brushing the years between them from her hair. Now everything is near silence and made of last light, except for the sound of that key turning helplessly and distant keening of gulls. We're heading for 24, 25 minutes. So I think I'll read one last poem. And I'm going to end with the first poem that begins my collection, The Algebra of Insignificance, and it's titled Everything is Bracketed by the Fragility of Breath. And it begins with an epigraph. Everyone needs an abandoned garden in his life, or an old house with peeling walls. Everyone needs another forgotten world. Yehuda Amichai. Silence divides the notes as we perform a dance to a song of our own making. Floorboards creak under the weight of the dancer as a far-off storm gathers the destruction of petals loosened by late summer. Yet there are always molecules of joy, such as the gesture of the dreamer, the fleshed weight of a body turning towards you in sleep. This is life enough. Watching starlight spin over surf, or a gardener shovel soil to reveal the hidden world of a writhing earthworm and other unnamed creatures, of life turning in on itself, ghost notes in the score of the symphony. Those rare encounters, a moment's gaze between an animal and oneself, a keyhole through which you glimpse the connectedness of every atom. In that fraction, an unfathomable code is deciphered and then lost. Everything is bracketed by the fragility of breath. This is perhaps where God lingers, tending his allotment on the rim of a derelict galaxy, planting, watering, and weeding. Decades back, while walking on a pearled beach, the wind scissored the future into many paths, yet you chose me. In the end, every journey becomes an incomplete jigsaw of beauty, an ode to chance, where the final piece is tossed away to celebrate imperfection. Moments when the immense improbability of this one life brushes past you. Thank you. It's 27 minutes I've been reading, so I'll stop it right there. And if anyone has some questions, please fire away.
So thank you so much, Stephen. That was really fantastic.
Thank you.
It was, yeah, really lovely. Some fantastic images there. If people would like to ask questions, please raise your hands or otherwise indicate that you would like to do so. I am going to kick off with the most obvious question to me, at any rate, which is how do you fit it all in? How do you fit in a career, a job, a family, plus 5 collections of poetries and 2 short story collections and goodness knows what else you've got going on? How does it work? Are you one of those annoying people who wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do your work before everyone else is up, or is there some other secret?
No, I'm the complete opposite. I used to be an early riser, but as I've grown older, I try and stay in bed until the last minute. No, I think it's a question of feeling the need to write or to create. So for me, when I strike while the iron's hot, and I try, as I said to you earlier, carve out moments when I can be creative and use the amount of time that I've been given to try and be as creative as possible. Obviously, in more cases than not, it doesn't work, but I think the trick is really persevering and really trying one's best to carve out those moments and hopefully, create something that's of worth. So no, I don't have any particular regime. I don't have any magic formula. I think yeah, I just use the time that I have when I have the time to write, and the advantage, I suppose, is that I do my design studio is home based. So I do have access to my library, to my books and writing. So if I do have an hour here and there, I can snatch that hour and use it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is Jacques. who would like to ask a question. Jacques, is that right? Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. I don't know, Stephen, can you hear me?
Hello,
Yes, we
Jacques. How are
can.
you?
I'm well, thank you. And belated congratulations on the Olive Schreiner Prize, which
Thank you.
you
Thanks very
deserve.
much.
Um, I always feel a wonderful vertigo when it's a it's a it's a pleasant vertigo when I listen to your work because I feel it points in the direction, on the one hand, that we're not so important, that we're insignificant in cosmic terms, and on the other hand, it's about the everyday things being very important. So it's like that beach poem where you use pointless and precise in the same line. And that's a gorgeous, and it never ceases to delight and amaze me. And I wonder if you want to, I don't know, I've now maybe done it. I've now maybe answered the question that I wanted to ask you, but is there something that you want to say about that? Because I've, I've said this, but the thing is, you, s- it's a mystery that you say it, you put it down, and then the next time I hear your work, and it's there again, and it's strong, and it moves me like for the first time.
I think what I particularly enjoy about writing is that it allows you to present the reader with contrasts and shift literally within a few words from, as you say, to the insignificance of one's own life to a cosmic stage.
Mm,
And I think as human beings, we need to constantly be aware and at the same time of our insignificance, but our uniqueness, and then our, the scale of the cosmos in which we, yeah, we enjoy a few brief moments. And I think for me that's part of the mystery, the improbability of one's existence at
mm,
this particular moment in the life of the cosmos itself and or cosmoses. If you believe a in quantum physics and the
mm,
many worlds theory. I do think that at, we would not be in a state of constant conflict if we took the time to really see the detail and then at the same time look out beyond our self-importance, the importance of our existence, and
mm.
just wonder. And I don't mean as in wander around, but take delight in the improbability of our existence in this vast cosmos. And so I suppose that's what I like about poetry is the ability to really shift the momentum and the perspective of the reader via a few words or a line or two.
No, that's thank you. It's a kind of magic because you play with perspective. Um, that's thank you. I mean, if there's time, it'd be lovely if you could read Small Souls. But I mean, let's see how it goes and whether you feel like it. Thank you
Okay,
very
sure,
much.
sure.
So I think Ed was next, and then I have the next person after Ed is Zoom user. I'm not sure who that is, but you'll after Ed.
Hey, Stephen, I was struck by many things in your reading. Love the presence of the sea um, and the surfers, the poems about surfing, and I was also aware that joy sort of makes an appearance, yet there are always molecules of joy. They happen in some of the poems. But there are two things that I thought maybe ask you about. The one was just an awareness that you're not afraid to tackle abstraction and sort of really go in there, and yet the work is tied to a suburban land, suburbia, or it's tied to the sea, and it's just remarkable how those things are juggled, I suppose. So that's more just appreciation for that fearlessness, and yeah, that's really thought-provoking work. This God, for example, I want to find that and read it after hearing you read it again. And then the other question is to do with the Babushka poem, and because it feels like a kind of ventriloquism to sort of taking on someone's voice, someone's point of view, and you walk a kind of an ambiguous and maybe not so ambiguous moral line in that poem. And I just wanted to know, and maybe linking that to fiction or short stories. I'll leave it there.
So really to answer that, I think, we live in a very binary world in which we tend to see particularly conflict in binary terms. And that's something it's always fascinated me. We like to take sides. And I think it's important in viewing conflict, particularly human conflict on a grand scale, and then right down to the individual himself or herself, and position one, or imagine at least, the position of those caught on the wrong side of history. And it's something that's always fascinated me, is how ordinary people commit acts of evil or commit atrocities. And I think it's vitally important that, we speak of the banality of evil, but in the same breath, we need to realize, and I think that in most cases, acts of horror and violence are committed by the most ordinary of people. And so the poem "Bless Me, Babushka, for I have sinned" is really ambiguous, and if it walks a fine moral line, good. I like that. I think that's vitally important. I think, we're quick to take sides, and I'm not taking sides at all. In fact, I weaved an entire short story around the poem, which appears in Of Salt, Dust, and Love, and imagined what it must be like for a Russian conscript on the Ukrainian front, and then vice versa. The short story grapples with the other side, so to speak. So in that sense, I think it's important to disrupt the moral high ground, so to say, and question the other side. And in fact, my novel does that on a grand scale. So I think that it's, we like to tell the stories of the good guys, the so-called good guys, and I think it's vitally important that we also tell the stories of the so-called bad guys, and then tap into the humanity of it, because ultimately we're all human beings.
Thank you. Yeah, it's illuminating.
Any other questions?
Zoom user, it's over to you if you have your question.
Yes. I've got a question for Stephen. Sorry, my name is Vernon.
Hey, Vernon.
Stephen, your relationship with the natural world and your way of seeing nature in the everyday is very powerful for me in your poetry. And I just wondered if you could talk a bit about how nature allows you to locate yourself in terms of place in your poetry?
It's a good question, Vernon. I think in my case, I see the natural world as inextricable from my existence. The problem is, I think, for the vast majority of humans, they see the natural world. They don't see they are part of the ecosystem, or in some cases, the food chain. So I have great reverence for the world we inhabit, and nothing but disdain for individuals who cannot acknowledge that and understand that we are merely here, as I said earlier, for a few moments, and we should tread softly and lightly. And I think that's, for me, important as a writer, identifying that. And I suppose I don't think it was Jacques who asked me to read Small Souls. I I'm not sure if now's an opportune moment, and I read that as sort of a closing poem,
Sure, go
Fantastic.
ahead.
unless there are any other questions.
We can
Okay,
always take another question after, but let's have the poem.
okay. It's titled, as Jacques said, Small Souls. Forgive me, I know today is the day of your funeral, but I cannot write for you, and I've forgotten how to offer prayer for the dead. The soft wind has taken you impossibly far from here, so I write for the insignificance of an ant that is about to be burnt by a child with a magnifying glass. I write for the coming thirst of the rat and the inquisitive mouse with its back broken by a kitchen trap. I write for the flame-colored vixen cornered by a dozen hounds, and for the top-heavy bear, the sheer weight of her hairiness swaying in anger, and the 4 cubs at her feet, burnt from their den by happy hunters. I write for the soaked lace wings of the dragonflies drowning in a swimming pool, and the bees' last journey to the rose. I write for the gothic madness of a fly trapped behind the stained glass solitude of a cathedral, and I write for a stray cat walking in ever-slowing circles with an arrow through its neck. I write for the teat-heavy bitch being stoned by a trap of boys on a highway. I write for the concrete and straw lives of the lamb, the sow, and the cow awaiting the abattoir's bolt, and the fence-line lope of a lion tamed for the trophy room. I want to be a taxidermist for the soul of the earthworm, the caged finch, and flailing octopus in a fisherman's bait bucket. I want to display their lives from birth to death, from the nest until it is swept up by the ceaseless hurricane. I want to place the smallest of souls, of spiders, squirrels, and swallows in glass and mahogany cabinets covered in children's fingerprints, in a museum of great sadness. I will use an antique typewriter to type the stories of their irrelevance on cardboard labels that tell of pain beyond our bodies. Later, I will step out into the inconsolable cold and offer a sigh instead of a prayer in that dark hall of night. I will walk towards a far-off door, opening to a new day that is forever shifting out of reach and deeper into the murk. Thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful. I can
Now we
see why.
Now we're talking.
I can see why Jacques wanted you to read that one. It's really lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. If there is any last questions, please say so now. Otherwise, we are simply very grateful for your time, effort, and beautiful reading.
My
And
pleasure, everybody, and thank you for joining. I really appreciate it, and it's wonderful to hear your questions and your comments. It really is appreciated from me too.